So a couple of weeks ago, there was an article trending by one guy, Jack Zero, where he penned down his experience working with a Kenyan startup. And I felt for this guy because I do think there is aspects of what he was saying that I actually personally resonated with. Between jobs, there was a point like 3-4 months where I was between jobs working with a variety of startups in Kenya, and it is wild. It is very, very wild. So this video, I will be talking about the red flags that you should look out for if you want to join a startup. So number one is faith-driven entrepreneurs or faith-driven startups. My real beef with this one is I am a big believer in separating church and state. Like, I mean, look at what it's doing for our country, where we have this combination where we use religion to weaponize and say some things are acceptable because it is the right thing to do. So this startup, it involved, part of the induction, meeting a reverend, or was it a pastor, who would pray for you, who would learn about you. And for me, that is literally a red flag. Because down the line, it will come to conversations around, let's do this because of the faith, we're doing this and we're helping people, no. I personally would never sign up or work for a startup that has faith-driven entrepreneurship or business-minded traits. Red flag number 2 is the problem. Like, what problem is this startup solving? And that is a legitimate question. If, for example, I'll take the example of Kune or Kun Foods. I personally never worked there, but I was not surprised when the startup, shut down and was not profitable, because the problem that they are solving and a problem that the startup is solving should be a problem that's been validated, or even an opportunity that exists in the market. If you're just solving perceived problems, or if the founder has just come into the country and 2 days in, they're like, oh my God, there's this gap. It's asking, why does that gap exist? I think in Kenya or in Africa, there are usually gaps that exist because someone is benefiting from them. And I don't think just coming in with a piece of product or technology is usually the answer. So make sure and ask these questions. What problem are you solving? Has this been validated? Can you show me the data? Can you show me the users? Can you show me the product? Ask those questions. It is very important to avoid these difficult situations that you can potentially have with startup. Number 3 is the team. The team is so important. Who is this team I'm going to work with? And I'll just give an example of the product space. Product is a very interesting space because there's no direct output of this is what I build. Like for example, engineers, they work on code, they translate their code into beautiful interfaces or a function that works end to end. In product, it doesn't really translate that easily. So usually, the red flags I look for, like for example, in a product team, usually if I see a product team that has an MBA graduate from Harvard and that's the head of product and has never done product, there's no track record of the products that they have built, whether on the continent or outside. For me, that is a red flag. And I think that same can be applied to engineers. Who is the CTO? Who is the head of engineering? Who's the VP of engineering? Does this person have the experiences and the skill to lead in this? And is this someone I would learn from if I was to come into that space? So that is a flag that you definitely need to look at, and that's the team. So look at that. Number 4, I believe a lot of the startups are throwing loads of buzzwords, loads of people. And when I say throwing a lot of buzzwords, it's like
big data, machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, digital manufacturing, big data analysis, quantum communication, and Internet of Things.
Also throwing names of people like, oh, this person is ex-Microsoft, ex-McKinsey, ex-Uber, XXX, all these X's that they'll bring in. But then again, if there's a lot of, if this is a lot of hype and talking about the technology being used and how it's new and cool and cutting edge, usually like it's very something simple that will solve a lot of the problems that we have like in Kenya. I mean, case in point, something like M-Pesa bloody works on USSD. They never talk about AI, blockchain. Like, I like that simplicity of, you know, let's keep it simple. Like, there's buzzwords that people can use. Like, if there's a lot of buzzwords happening and you're running to the latest trends, for me as an individual, that to me is a red flag in the startup space. And then finally, I know many startups don't have, you know, the ability to have good advisors. But it's okay to ask a startup who is advising you, who is advising you in terms of like strategy, who is advising you in terms of the product, who is advising you in terms of the tech. And it's okay if they don't have like advisors, but they should tell you and be very honest about that. I prefer startups that have reputable like advisory and board members. And yeah, that advisory again looks like the team that I just talked about in one of those red flags, that it's a team that's done this in the past, or advisor who's done this in the past, has relevant experience and skills, and they're happy to share that information. If they don't have any advisory, I'd tread very carefully with this startup, because it just shows that nobody is advising them. And usually, you know, for startups to succeed, you do need that ecosystem of supporters and advisors who are helping you to leapfrog and to drive your organization and your business to great strengths. Yeah, there you have it. Those are the red flags that I personally put out and check through when I've ever considered like looking at a startup. And yes, I hope I've been helpful. If there's anything I've missed, any other red flag that you have or anything that you disagree with, Apple comments. Let's have this discussion, and thanks for listening. Kwaheri. I have another one. If they're selling red flags, it's a red flag. So yeah.
9 to 5 has good